Gather around the fire, my friends. There's a new story to be told. Welcome back, everyone, to BlizzCon 2019's Day 2 competition for the Hearthstone Grandmasters Global Finals. We're off to a fiery start where Surrender, the last remaining representative for Asia Pacific, has bitten the dust, and Casey gets to move on. And perhaps another tale will be told that's very similar in that we have another Europe versus NA classic battle, Feno versus Bloodyface. However, Bloodyface is the lone representative for the home crowd, given that we had BNC eliminated yesterday alongside Tom 60229. And so with one final semi-spot remaining, who is going to be able to take it? Let's go ahead and find out and introduce our players. The first, the lone representative from T1, hailing from Greece, the winner of Season 1 in Europe. Please welcome to the stage, Feno! Opponent from Lazarus Gaming with 2 semi-final above finishes in 2018 at a seasonal championship. He's back for more. Please welcome to the stage, Bloodyface! As mentioned before, this is your last life. Please shake hands. Let the final group match begin.
The 10th and final match of the group phase is about to be underway. Feno versus Bloodyface, a rematch of the ages, but not a rematch of the same deck list. We saw Feno versus Bloodyface. Feno took it down 2-0 in some fantastic Rogue versus Warrior gameplay day 1, but we will not see that today. Bloodyface's Warriors actually banned this time around. Hunter Ace, what are your thoughts on day 1, Feno versus Bloodyface?
We saw a very dominant performance from Feno, and maybe that the ban phase yesterday caught Bloodyface a bit off guard. Seeing him deciding to change it up for this day and protecting the Druid rather than protecting what he protected yesterday. And Feno deciding to then banning the Warrior instead of what he did yesterday.
No, I think it makes a lot of sense from Feno's side. Feno did not switch up his protect from day 1 to day 2. He protected Priest both days, but I think Bloodyface might have expected a next level kind of ban and protect phase from Feno. Feno didn't do that, and I think Feno actually gets a little bit of an edge here compared to day 1. Banning the Warrior, I think a lot of his decks kind of struggle in the Warrior matchup, specifically Priest and Rogue, both decks that he's going to have in this upcoming match.
Yes, correct, and it is kind of weird, right? Because Priest is the natural counter of Druid, right? So Bloodyface changing up his protect to Druid when he knows that Feno protected Priest yesterday is kind of weird, but maybe there was like some next level reads going on here, and Bloodyface ended up missing.
Absolutely. In this kind of shield conquest, there's a lot of different strategies that you can go for in the pick and ban phase. A lot of times it's about what you think your opponent is going to do. Generally, in these 4-deck versus 4-deck scenarios, there's usually 2 leading options where if your opponent does one thing, one option is really good and one option is pretty bad. And that goes for both players. I think here, Feno got the pretty good option out of the 2.
Yes, it's also a lot about playstyle, I think. I think you can force different scenarios depending on what decks you want to play and what matchups you want to play. And Bloodyface clearly is switching it up here, which means that we're probably going to see different matchups from what we saw yesterday. Yep. And we're starting off with the Priest versus the Rogue. Bloodyface on Priest and Feno on the Rogue.
Yeah, and this is one of those things that's really interesting. Even among top-level competition, people have such different opinions about what is good and what is bad. For example, in the European region, a lot of players thought that Quest Shaman was really good versus Priest, while the leading theory about that was that Priest was just so dominant in that matchup. And we actually saw the players on the Quest Shaman do pretty well in that matchup. So it's going to be interesting to see. We see Feno's Tempo Rogue list here. He has the Spirit of the Shark, the only player in the top 8 of this global finals to have a Spirit of the Shark. High Spirit Togwaggle and Vendetta as well. He is trying to use that Swashbuckler that we've been talking about this entire weekend. A new update from the Doom in the Tomb, which brought back old cards from Wild to Standard.
Yeah, and also it's worth to mention that Feno is only one of 2 players now with Surrender being defeated with Edwin Van Cleef left in his lineup. And Edwin Van Cleef is pretty known to do well in these type of championships. So we'll see if the storyline continues.
I think the statistic is that every single championship has had a Edwin Van Cleef in its lineup. So Fino has got to represent, man. Bloodyface's Combo Priest. This is going to be the matchup that we see for Game 1. A pretty standard one, but also pretty powerful. I think diverging from this deck list doesn't always work out. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We see, you know, the Bonsomdi, 1 copy of Extra Arms, 1 copy of Acolyte Pain. This was the very standard lineup pretty much throughout all of Season 2 of Grandmasters.
Yes, and we're heading into the Rogue versus Priest there. And what do you think about this matchup, Galen?
From my perspective, I feel like with the update from Swashbuckler, it becomes a lot better for the Rogue. I think early Vendettas and Saps are really crucial in this matchup, and Fino has 2 of both.
Yes, I'm also thinking that specifically the fact that you can consistently now play the underbelly fence on 2 and also have its effect sometimes is incredibly strong, because that deals with almost every single Priest early game minion.
Bloodyface's entire early game is 1-3s and 1-2s and 2-3s, which underbelly fence just demolishes. Fino doesn't have the Swashbuckler, but he does have a Pharaoh Cat, which has around a 30% chance of finding a class card.
Yeah, and he also has the backstab, so he should be pretty well going into this early game, and should be able to deal with that Priest early game pressure at least.
Yeah, I mean, if Bloodyface plays this Light Warden here, the backstab is just going to check it immediately.
Yeah, and that's what Bloodyface is considering here. Maybe he's supposed to wait. Maybe he's supposed to wait for next turn and do the Light Warden paired together with Power Shield. And he decides to go for that.
Not a class card.
Yes, but definitely a good card. It's a card that we see represented in this tournament in a lot of decks. And I don't think Fino is too unhappy
Well, good is relative, right? Good is always relative. In a deck that packs something like N'Zoth, Cartoon Defender gets a lot better. When you're talking about Tempo Rogue, which wants to use a bunch of small mana cost cards to do like powerful turns, I feel like Cartoon can be really awkward, especially in matchups like Priest, where turn 6 is kind of the end game.
Yeah, and we can see here that even though Bloodyface decided to wait with the Light Warden to pair it together with the Power Shield, the 1-drop makes it so that Fino still can contest the Light Warden with the Hero Power now together with the backstab.
Yeah, I mean, Fino's really in a good spot right now. Backstab Hero Power can just deal with the Light Warden. He can also just do something like Backstab Coin Edwin, make a 6/6.
Yes, I think that he most likely will go for the more consistent approach of just developing the dagger, but I can definitely see him also just trying to go for an explosive push with a very early Edwin complete.
The Edwin is a bit of a risk. I think Fino's hand is almost good enough that he doesn't have to take it.
Yeah, I totally agree with Fino's choice here.
Let the pain speak to me.
Okay, so Fino here with a couple of different options. He could go in with the Van Cleef that we were talking about last turn, but he doesn't really want to use the coin for nothing.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, honestly, Fino is in a kind of a divergent path here. He has 2 options. Big Edwin this turn, which doesn't seem that great because drawing extra cards off the Acolyte, not the best. But he could also coin Wagglepick to start to develop into that next turn.
Yes, and also set up for an even stronger next turn down Van Cleef, which I think Fino is right to do here. It also sets up for Claire for the next minion that Bloodyface.
There's so many benefits to developing that weapon that I think it would be wrong for Fino not to do it. I'm glad that he does it. I think the ability to pretty much shadow step that Pharaoh Cat gives him an opportunity to get another activator for his underbelly fence. If he doesn't hit it, he can always just replay like a backstab Edwin, just make a 6/6, contest the board that way.
Yeah, and I think this is just lines up very well versus most of the things Bloodyface can do. And I think that Fino recognizes that very well. This is just a very strong play, and we don't have to take the Edwin on the board yet and leave ourselves vulnerable to a silence that we know Bloodyface has in his deck.
So from Bloodyface's perspective, what is his game plan with his current hand? I feel like he wants to land this Divine Spirit on a huge buff minion, so like Interbladed Bastard, Neferset Ritualist come to mind, but the problem with that is that it's cost so much mana. If he tries to just develop things one turn after another, try to do it over a couple turns, Fino's going to check that with the Wagglepick, with that backstab. So how does Bloodyface get to a spot where he can get a huge minion that Fino can't answer?
Yeah, I think at this point, when Bloodyface is behind, he kind of has to choose what he can play around and kind of commit to a line, because Fino also has the saps in the deck. So if he commits on one big minion, he's always very vulnerable to just seeing the sap from Fino. So it might be that he has to end up in a spot here where he just has to not play around the card.
There's a sap.
And we can also see that the Waggle cleanly clears up the Lightworn
This
here.
is so good. I mean,
Stepping,
everything about it is just so powerful.
Also
right?
getting the Edwin up already. Extremely powerful for Fenomeno.
I'd be surprised if he doesn't play the Edwin this turn. 6/6 just is more than enough to contest.
The Brotherhood shall prevail.
Still on a class card, so Underbill offense yet to be active.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to be a bad thing for Fino, though. Fino is in such a good spot now.
Yes, and we see the clear effect here of the additional 1-drops just making Rogue a lot stronger versus the Priest. Just getting off early and being able to contest Priest early game just makes it a lot easier for Rogue to capitalize on it and make a big board later on.
This has got to be the conversation of the weekend about Rogue, which is that when we talk about Rogue historically, a lot of times it's like a Gadgetzan and Auctioneer Rogue that makes its way to the finals. And that deck has a lot of power turns, but it's not really based around early board pressure. It's based around drawing a Gadgetzan and Auctioneer, playing a bunch of 0 mana cost spells, and going off that way. But with that deck, you sacrifice a lot of consistency for that power spike in Gadgetzan and Auctioneer. A lot of hands when you have a bunch of 0 mana spells like Preparation, Shadow Step, Coin, etc., Backstab, there's going to be so many combinations where you really can't do anything. I feel like the new Rogueless kind of get rid of that power spike in Gadgetzan and Auctioneer for just way more consistency in the 1 and 2 drops. I think it's just a better overall strategy when you need to win as many games as possible.
Yeah, I also think that the addition of Source Burger really just made this Rogue extremely consistent and powerful for that reason.
1 mana, activate your 3/4s with Rush for 2 mana, and 0 mana deal for Vendettas is ridiculous. Oh, and draw a card.
Or isn't draw a card, but it's generate a card, which in general is a very strong effect, and also an effect that your opponent can never really play around.
Sometimes you get Arcane Intellect and draw 2 cards.
That's true. You can get anything, Galen, you know? So
within reason.
It's within reason. Sometimes it's not within reason also, I would say, but yeah.
We saw yesterday that Swashbuckler and Ethereal Lackeys gave some pretty good stuff versus Bloodyface's Warrior.
So Fino could potentially go for the max template here and just expend his sap. What do you think about that?
I wonder.
If he saps his turn, that means that he's committing to a face line rather than just clearing the board. What is Fino worried about from Bloodyface's hand? Like, what is the worst case scenario? I'm thinking High Priest Amet and Bwonsamdi are the cards that he needs to worry about, right? So if he goes sap here and commits to a face game plan, does he beat Amet, Bwonsamdi?
I also think that you can go sap here and commit more to a board route by just slowing down your opponent and sealing the board even further. But I'm quite curious how Fino's going to approach it. And it seems like he's going for a sap board control,
Okay.
what I was talking about.
So still respecting board by trading and not pushing 6 face,
Yes.
even though it's really appetizing 6 damage.
Yeah, you really wanted to go face there, right, Galen? I can see it in your face there.
It's a fireball.
Yes, it
Priest
would
is all
be a
about
fireball.
inner fire. I just want to outer fire them.
Yeah, yeah. So Bloodyface now in quite a rough spot. Fino kind of just sealed the boards, and one thing that Priest is extremely weak in, especially the combo Priest, is fighting from behind and managing to get the board back.
So Bloodyface just needs to get an answer right now. I'm talking about things that fight for board as hard as possible. Stuff like High Priest Amet, stuff like Circle of Healing to draw extra cards, Bwonsamdi. He has a lot of health to work with, so he's going to have some turns to stabilize, but if he doesn't draw those cards, it doesn't matter how much life he has, Fino's just going to run away with the board.
Yeah, I'm thinking exactly Bwonsamdi, and then potentially picking up a Circle of Healing or a High Priest Amet to just extend on that and have an extremely powerful turn, because I just think that what is Bloodyface need now to be able to come back in this game, an extremely powerful turn, because Rogue also has a pretty big problem with coming back from very, very big boards.
This is a play that we often see out of desperation, but it's still very intelligent. You can use inner fire on your opponent's minions to reduce the attack. A lot of times that can lead to value trades. It can lead to protecting minions on board. And I think Bloodyface is right here. I think if he just lets Fino run away with like board control by not using his cards, that's how he's going to lose the game. Right now, inner fire is not going to win Bloodyface the game. What's going to win is board control.
Yeah, I also think that this way he also saves onto both his Toller and his Cleric, which makes a lot of his potential goals a lot better and just plays more optimistically in his deck. Alright, so how do you think that Fino is going to decide to deal with this now?
Well, there's so many ways, right? Kobold Lackey, Shadow Step, Kobold Lackey. That might be a little bit of an overcommitment, but he can protect his Edwin if he wants to.
Yes. it's going to be interesting.
Seems like that's what he's going to do.
Yep.
It also has the added benefit of pushing 5 face, which often increases a clock on your opponent by 1 extra turn.
Yes, and I think that Fino is specifically thinking about the turn 7 from Samdi.
Ah, yes.
Being as good as he can against that.
As much stuff in play as possible.
Yes. Okay, so Bloodyface doesn't manage to pick that up, but he has a pretty strong turn here with the Tolver Nephros Ritualist.
In a vacuum. It's pretty strong in a vacuum, but against what Fino has, man, there's so many problems that Bloodyface doesn't have an answer to right now.
Yeah, he's very behind, which is a big problem. Even though his turns are powerful, he's just playing from behind, and when Rogue is ahead, they are so efficient on just making all those value trades and getting value.
To be fair, I think if Bloodyface could choose and pick his draws for the next like 3 turns in a row, there is a scenario where he can get out of this game. I'm talking Bwansamdi immediately next turn into maybe a Circle of Healing to combo with his Northshire Cleric, but it's tough.
Yeah, it's really
it's
tough.
unlikely.
And I think that the only way that this will work out is Bloodyface just fighting aggressively for the board, so he isn't dead when that happens.
There's a Bwansamdi.
Yeah, it is. So there's a chance here.
Oh, there's a Spirit of the Shark.
Okay, so Fino could develop the Spirit of the Shark here. He could trade in the Temple Berserker and then rush the 3-1 Temple Berserker, which will be a 5-1 then. What do you think about that?
What about Cartridge Defender Goblin Lackey? That's just 7 mana. Spending 7 mana is pretty good. You protect yourself against Wild Pyromancer plus 3 spells if that's a potential hand from Bloodyface. And you still leave yourself up to go Spirit of the Shark Life Drinker next turn to push that extra 6 damage.
Yes, you can't clear the board then though, but I guess that you can clear the Cleric, which is
well,
the
you can clear the board. It just means that you're not going to be going face, which I think Fino is fine with. As long as you have board control, you're probably going to win this game.
But can you clear the board?
Yeah.
No, you can't.
He is 1 damage off of clearing, but I think leaving up the 2/3 is pretty much effectively clearing the board.
Sure, that's fair, that's fair, that's fair. And Fino just...
This is a technicality that we're arguing about right now.
Yeah. You're just thinking about how to do this most efficiently. And also making his board very resilient to Pyromancer if that's available for Bloodyface.
Oh, there's the Pyromancer.
Yeah, so Bloodyface could potentially clear up quite a lot of the board here with the Pyromancer paired together with the Divine Spirits.
This is almost a full clear.
It's a very big commitment though, to use both the Divine Spirits for
I mean,
board
but
clear.
it's just so good against what Fino has right now. He clears literally everything but a 3-1 Reborn Temple Berserker.
Yes, we also make our Nephros Ritualist quite large, I think. Or we actually.
No, this makes a lot of sense to me. I think that from Bloodyface's side, just clearing as much of the board as possible actually gets him back in the game. Bloodyface has the Bwansamdi as a follow-up. This is kind of the pan-out that I was talking about, where it was very unlikely for Bloodyface to get the cards needed, but I think this is a spot he can fight back from.
Yeah, and it seems that Bloodyface wants to play the Pyromancer here, and he's going for this Cleric. And with the follow-up of Bwansamdi, I think there's definitely potential for him to get back. He will get a Cleric, and he could get
that is
additional
so huge.
card draw from that, pick up the High Priest Amit, and then suddenly he's back on board.
And he gets other 1-drops alongside that. He's just an Amit away from like having dominating board control.
Oh, this was also a very interesting decision here. Bloodyface deciding to trade afterwards. This way he clears a bit less of the board, but he also leaves his Ritualist a bit higher health, I think.
That seems very strange to me. Doesn't...
Also, there was a little technical error there.
I
he could have healed first and then Divine Spirit, which would have led that Ritualist to be high health total, but not higher health.
I think that Bloodyface could have ordered it a little bit better. I think there is a world where he does not leave this 3-1 in play. And in fact, that's actually going to be, I think, pretty punishing for him. It's going to be extra 3 damage. It's going to be a taunt that he has to fight through. Yeah, man, I think there's a way to do that better.
Yeah, I think so too. But he tried to do it in a more cleaner way. We could get most value possible out of Divine Spirit.
Somehow it just ended up in a way more awkward board state.
Exactly, exactly. And the Bwansamdi not picking up that many cards here, to be honest, actually.
Yes and no. I think drawing 2 is pretty much what you want to be doing at this spot. It's about as good as Bloodyface could hope for. I hate to focus on that, but man, I really think that might be what gives Fino the win here. That's if Bloodyface gets an Amit. If Bloodyface doesn't get the Amit, I think it doesn't matter really what he does. But if he gets an Amit, I think that extra 3-1 is going to cause so many issues for Bloodyface.
Yes. I also wonder how it would have panned out if Bloodyface decided to go for the Bumsamdi first and then follow up with Pyromancer to turn offward. Maybe if he picks up an additional spell,
I'm going to disagree
like
with you.
Circle of Healing, right? He could get with that pair to Cleric that he knows he will draw.
Sure, but he's under so much pressure there that if he doesn't clear the board that specific turn, doesn't he just die over 2? And it doesn't really matter that he has a follow-up. Fino can just kill him with Burst from hand.
Yeah, I think he had to do it, but it's an interesting thought. And
another underbelly fence that's activated from the Grand Mummy.
Yeah, Fino just tries to seal the game now. He's super close to lethal, but not quite there yet.
He has 8 in play, 1 extra from the dagger, that's 9, plus 6 from the life drinker, doubled its battle cry from the Spirit of the Shark, so he's 3 off lethal this turn.
That's correct. And Fino just playing the taunt here to be extra safe. Potentially, he would be vulnerable to a silence pair to get away. But he already used 2 Advanced Spirits, so we're not really vulnerable to
Fino's okay, to put it colloquially, Fino's chilling right now. Okay, he's at 28 life. He's got 2 taunts up. His opponent's almost dead. He's got a life drinker in hand that can heal him back up as somehow Bloodyface smacks him. The game is going Fino's way in like 8 different directions.
Yeah, and Fino just trying to seal it here, thinking about what could Bloodyface possibly do, and how do I lose? And I think that he should reach the conclusion that that's very hard, and probably just push up a bunch of face here.
Just leave up the 7-9, right? Like, it doesn't matter if that's like 100 at the end of the turn. You got so many things protecting you right now that it's just a non-factor.
Yeah, I mean, it really can't get 100, but sure, yeah.
1,000. Million a million.
Maybe next game.
Taunt is cheat.
Taunt is cheat. That is true, though. And Bloodyface is really...
Circle of Healing right off the top. Trade the 7-9 into the 2-5. We need to get a Circle of Healing. Bloodyface is thinking about whether 3 cards and leaving up the 2-5 to not get it circled is a little bit better. There's a Circle of Healing. Draw 3.
I'm excited to see how this is going to be able to come back. But
Psycho Pomp.
Okay, there's a Psycho Pomp.
Another Psycho Pomp. Well, he can't play both this turn, but...
He could rest the Tolver, potentially.
Injure Tolver, extra arms. Does that keep him alive?
He could also injure Tolver and then Psycho Pump for another injured Tolver, right? And then he can potentially inner fire the injured Tolver to make so he can value trade into it.
It seems like if Bloodyface plays a Psycho Pomp, gets an injured Tolver, and plays another injured Tolver, Fino may be 1 damage off lethal. You get the 6 from the first injured Tolver.
I think he's off, yeah, but this way.
It seems like Fino's going to take it.
Yeah.
Game 1 in the books. Fino with a very commanding rogue game. I think Fino has been playing this rogue just fantastically this entire tournament. I'm happy that that streak is keeping up. I love Fino's gameplay with Rogue. I think he's been showing his dominance on that since like Season 1 of Grandmasters with quote-unquote Water Rogue with Sea Giants, which also had Spirit of the Shark in it. So he's been playing this card for months, if not over a year at this point.
Yes, I totally agree. Fino is one of the greatest Rogue players out there. And even before Grandmasters season, he's always been this big Rogue player. And back in the Quest Rogue days, I remember him grinding Quest Rogue every day, all day, you know. And he's definitely one of the best rogue players out there.
Yeah, it's really cool to see players performing with their pet decks at the highest level of competition. You know, we always see people arguing about like what is the best deck. So when someone comes through and just shows these like fantastic skills on like kind of out there decks. I don't think Rogue is necessarily like a tier 3, tier 4 deck, but it's definitely not considered tier 1. And the fact that Fino's just showing performance after performance with it, even at this level of competition, I think is really great. It shows that Hearthstone has so much depth to it that it's unexplored by a lot of people.
Yeah, and especially I think this is shown in the Rogue because there's so much you can do, and there's so much that happens throughout the games that are very unique to specific games, right? Because you have so many cards that generate cards that are not from your class or not necessarily even from your opponent's class, right? So the game scenarios are all so different, and it really just takes a lot from the player and a lot of experience in every single matchup.
Really about Rogue is just that you had so many decisions and all of them matter. And that's really what pro players like. It's when decisions matter. The decisions in these next games are going to matter so much for both Fino and Bloodyface. So we're going to go to a quick break, but stay with us. We have Game 2, Fino versus Bloodyface. Who will make it to the top 4?
BlizzCon 2019 is brought to you by T-Mobile. Their newest signal goes farther than ever, and it's built 5G ready. MSI, True Gaming. Intel, the official CPU partner of BlizzCon. And by HyperX, we're all gamers.
Prepare to fight!
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Connie.
That's some accident. I can help you file a claim on the State Farm app.
My insurance app doesn't do that.
Indeed. Let's split a cab to the con.
The future waits for no one, so we refuse to wait for it. We're not just pilots and engineers. We are pioneers. Today, battles are waged in nanoseconds, and planes are piloted from the other side of the world. We turn night into day and fly missions in space. The future's not coming. It's already here. This is the future. Join us and be the future.
Friends and people who actually believed in me, and that really helped me to actually try to go for it. When I qualified in season 1, it was a stressful couple of days because I'm playing with the best players, in my opinion, in Europe at the point. It was really hard. I had no expectations, but everyone, a lot of my friends were just take it easy, relax, and try to not stress yourself. I think that really helped me become better, that I just try to focus on the game and just have fun. Ignore the prize pool, ignore that you're in the finals, and just try to play your best game. I think that's very important. It feels very special to me to be the one that qualified from Europe. I try to not put expectations on myself, but for this one, it's the big one, it's probably the best chance I ever get to become the world champion. So I'm definitely gonna try my best. If I play well, I think I have a very good shot.
Welcome back to the final day of Hearthstone Global Finals. We are in the last decider match to determine who will make it to the top 4 of this championship. Fino is currently up 1-0 versus Bloodyface with a dominant Rogue versus Priest game. Bloodyface could not come back even after that full clear with the Wild Pyromancer, or almost full clear with the Wild Pyromancer.
Yes, and it's almost looking like we might see a repeat of what was happening early yesterday with Fino getting the 2-0 sweep on Bloodyface, which would mean that NA would be eliminated from the global finals here, Galen.
That's a bad storyline for me, man. I'm rooting for NA all the way. But Fino has been playing this tournament very well. And I think that even going into this next game, I think Fino's strategy might be paying off for him. He's stuck with the same pick and ban phase from yesterday, but Bloodyface switched it up, and I think it's going to benefit Fino here. Fino is going to be on Priest versus Bloodyface's Shaman, I believe, but Fino still has Priest up against the other two decks that Bloodyface has, so even if this upcoming game goes awry for Fino, I think Fino will be favored.
Yes, and this is the deck that Fino protected,
Yeah.
so it's the deck he definitely feels the most comfortable with in the series. So I think he's extremely happy getting the win there with the Rogue versus Bloodyface Priest, and he's probably very comfortable now with his Priest versus two different matchups.
Fino has had so much time to prepare on Priest. In Grandmasters, it was considered pretty much the best deck in the format, and week after week after week after week, people have been playing Priest versus Priest, Priest versus Shaman. So if anyone's experienced on this, it's going to be Fino.
Yeah, he's definitely very experienced with Priest, and I've personally also been practicing a lot of Priest.
That being said, Bloodyface is one of the better players against Priest. You know, we saw in the North American Grandmasters, he had to play it against it a bunch and came out on top quite often. Bloodyface will be on Quest Shaman this time. I think Quest Shaman has gotten a lot better, as we were discussing yesterday, against Priest with that addition of Desert Hair Evolve. I think that early game plan is really going to help him.
Yeah, we saw it in Casey versus Surrender earlier today, when Surrender just had the very early pressure with the Hair Evolve, and how that just makes it so the Priest just struggles to get on board, and Shaman is just way stronger on fighting versus what Priest can do in the early game, which we all know is extremely powerful.
Yep. Fino is going to be on the play with a Northshire Cleric and a Beaming Sidekick. This is almost as good as you can get versus a Quest Shaman. Another Beaming Sidekick.
Yes, you know, very happy to see this hand, and he can just capitalize on this Cleric fully now, and picking up the Circle of Healing. Oh, this is going to be very explosive, but the thing that...
Wait a second. Bloodyface is a draw away from having his own explosive start with Desert Hair, Mogu Flesh Shaper Evolve.
Yes,
so,
and specifically this plays into Fino's specific start, right? Because he has the Flood minions. Now he has the small minions, and he can play them all. That is what his curve tells him. And if Bloodyface manages to pick up Evolve, that might lead right into what Fino has. But with the Injured Troller pickup, though, Fino can decide to go for a bit of a different route here.
This is like both of the blowout hands, where if your Priest opponent has Beaming Sidekick, Northshire Cleric, Injured Troller, Circle of Healing, that's like the nuttiest 5-card combo you can possibly imagine. But Bloodyface also has like the insane 3-card combo. So it'll be super exciting to see which quote-unquote blowout start is going to win this one.
Yes, and I think that Bloodyface really needs to pick up this additional Evolve to really just make the blowout happen. And Fino picking up the Tolerate, I think is very good for him. And I really agree with his approach here in playing the Tolerate. I think it's the most consistent approach versus everything that Bloodyface can do. And it also just sets up the full Cleric heal this turn.
People play 3 mana for an Arcane Intellect. This is an Arcane Intellect for 0 mana that also heals the Injured Troller for 3. That's insane.
That is insane, Galen.
That's insane.
And Fino just playing with the deck at this point, I would say. He has all the options he wants, and he can just pick whatever he feels that works out best versus what he can think that Bloodyface is going to do.
Something to keep in mind is Bloodyface has 4 mana. There is a copy, there's 2 copies of Weaponized Wasp in Bloodyface's deck. So if Fino does not protect the Northshire Cleric, it's leaving itself a bit open to something like Lackey that is in Bloodyface's hand, coin Weaponized Wasp. Obviously we don't see that it's there, but I think Fino is really incentivized to play around it.
Yes, also this is the point where you also always have to think about what isn't in Bloodyface's hand.
However, his placement of the 1-2 does confuse me a little bit. With this Never Set Ritualist in hand, you generally want high...
The Evolve, Galen.
Okay, but we're 1 turn off. Remember, there's
potentially 1 turn off. Again,
Desert Hair.
You remember yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Exactly in this position. Surrender decided to take it slow a turn, representing the mind control tech in hand, forcing his opponent to not do anything.
Not only that, right now the Mogu Flesh Shaper will cost 1 too much mana. If he goes Desert Hair, Coin Evolve, he can't actually fit in the Mogu Flesh Shaper as well. So I think Bloodyface really has to take this turn slow, even though that's something that he does not want to do with stuff like Mogu Flesh Shaper, Desert Hair. Yes, your point about Surrender just pretending to have that mind control tech also applies, but I think for Bloodyface, it's really about getting this maximum tempo that he can for the Mogu Flesh Shaper.
And what do you think about this Evil Kilbra? I get that he wants to complete his quest, right?
Yep.
But at the same time, it gives Fino an option to do something that is not playing the force.
So are you worried about something like just drawing an extra card off the Northshire Cleric specifically?
Yes,
I agree with you.
or also the possibility. I mean, I'm not sure if he's going to play the second Lackey now, but just giving Fino another play with not committing any minions, right? Because I don't think that Fino wanted to commit any minions anyways this turn. So maybe this just gives Fino the option to do something when he couldn't do anything anyways.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think Bloodyface having a Desert Hare, Mogu Flesh Shaper evolve is already powerful enough that maybe you don't really need to search for that extra Lackey.
But he also just proceeds on getting his quest sooner finished,
there's
which is
lots,
also
there's
a
lots of different
very important deal, and maybe he thinks that if Fino decides to go for heal, it's not that relevant.
Yeah, if you're spending 2 mana, that means you're not playing a High Priest Amit next turn.
Yeah,
which is
I mean, also, the thing is that Fino counter to what Casey did yesterday, right, and respected the Mind Control tech. Fino can just decide to not respect the Mind Control tech. It doesn't always steal the best target, and therefore you just place it. And if he did that, Bloodyface would be in a terrible position, especially if it was High Priest Amit, which you were talking about.
Absolutely. Another Circle of Healing.
And now Fino is in the spot. He can play another minion, but he leaves himself vulnerable to the Mind Control tech, which is something that is very scary to do. And he decides not to do it.
We're going to see a massive turn here from Bloodyface, I believe. Desert Hare, Mogu Flesh Shaper, trade the 2/6. He could even play the Kobold Lackey first if he'd like to.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't Kobold Lackey the 1/2 Hare, he should be fine.
Yes, that would not be great.
that would kill the minion, but he would soon realize that, oh, shouldn't have done that.
Mogu Flesh Shaper would cost 1 extra mana, and it would deny Bloodyface this powerful turn.
And yeah, it will be interesting to see if he decides to use the Kobold Lackey on something.
Oh! Wait a second.
Oh, it was a close one.
Yikes.
He was targeting it, so he was considering it, but realized that, oh, that doesn't work how he wanted it to do.
It could have been a spectator error.
Oh, and the Octasari. Big pickup from Bloodyface.
Tasty Fin. That's going to pull Sludge Slurpers from Bloodyface's
Second time
deck.
in two Shaman games now, we see the Murloc there show up, drawing potentially both Sludge Slurpers.
So much is going to happen this turn.
Yeah,
Fino has so many options.
This is a very, very, very hard turn, and Fino could potentially totally explode this turn with a pickup of Divine Spirit Inner Fire, and managing to do this turn and figuring out what to do first and how to draw sequence and everything.
All I can say is, Fino,
hard.
you have to go. Your turn is almost halfway over at this point. You have so many things that you need to do. You need to draw so many cards from your deck with a Circle of Healing that waiting any longer is going to cost you so much EV.
Yes, and Fino is just going for it, hoping to draw the Divine Spirit and the Inner Fire here. That would be the ideal case here, but it doesn't seem that he's managing to pick up anything. And it's very important that he picks up something, because this board that the Shaman has assembled now is incredibly strong, and
the Northshire Cleric
is definitely in a very bad spot. So what do you even silence? Do you silence the Octasari, or do you silence the Murloc?
If you silence the Murloc, that's going to stop the immediate draws from Bloodyface, whereas the 8/8 is probably going to stay alive for quite a bit longer. So if I had to choose here, I'd probably silence the 3/2.
Having to play into Mind Control tech now, he's just so behind.
I mean,
at this point, he just
was so powerful.
Yeah, it was so powerful, and now he can't respect anything anymore, and he's just. That's just the power of the Shaman now. With the Desert Hare Evolve, it's just has this insane
Bloodyface has a
potential of just blowing out in the early game.
Yeah, Bloodyface, because of that, is going to have a commanding lead here. I would be really surprised if he doesn't trade in this 3/2 to draw some Murlocs. I think those right now, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Drawing those Murlocs will
Completing the quest also, very, very powerful here. He could also even pawn up something if he doesn't feel safe enough here, and this is just a very great
2 Sludge Slurpers. That's disgusting.
Discovering a spell.
Earth Shock. That's going to be huge.
Yeah, can shut down the Cleric, which is pretty important. That seems like, even though Fino has a full hand right now, he kind of needs his entire deck and the Divine Spirit Inner Fires to be able to end the game, because I don't think in any realistic world he can be able to come back on board now.
At the same time, Fino has, or Bloodyface has seen both Circle of Healing, so that really threatening combo with Northshire Cleric has gone away. Just taunt up the 8-6.
Or
the 3-4. Both the, yeah, you can't do that. Yeah, most of the friendly stuff, you can only target friendly minions.
Yeah, you can't only target.
You can't like witchy lackey your opponent's minion.
It would be cool though, because then you could do it together with Black Knight, you know, Galen. So it would be a cool niche combo going on there. I actually don't get why you can't do it on your opponent's minion. It would be fun. So Fino here in a very rough spot. Shaman managed to explode this game.
Well, Wild Pyromancer is picked
looking
up.
rough.
Wild Pyromancer is picked up. Fino could do something like Wild Pyromancer the 3-6, get it down to 2 health because the Pyromancer triggers after the Topsy-Turvy. Extra arms, the 1-2. And silence the 8-6. But you need to fit in an extra heal for the Wild Pyromancer.
Also, what we haven't really been talking about is the fact that this Spirit of the Bat on board has been buffing some of Bloodyface's minions.
Fino is actually in a pretty decent spot here, if not for the fact that there's a Spirit of Bat in play. I think that he can full clear or almost full clear the board. The Wild Pyromancer will not clear the Octosari, but it will contest it. An extra silence will be able to deny that infinite card draw pretty much from the Octosari.
Oh, so Fino's deciding to do it in a different way from what I initially thought he was going to do. He wants to clear the Octosari.
That's interesting.
This doesn't seem...
My hand is too full.
Our opponent gets a lot of cards now, Galen.
That's a lot of cards.
Yeah.
That surprises me.
It surprises me also, to be honest. Giving our opponents this many cards seems...
I feel like silencing the Octosari was like so critical to the game plan.
Yeah, it seems pretty hard for Fino to win if our opponent draws this many cards.
7 cards.
Drawing 8 cards is a very powerful thing in Hearthstone, especially when you don't have that many cards.
That being said,
also it's turn 5.
I think Fino was in a really rough spot there, so I don't think there was much that he could have done to actually win this game. But I do think there was like worlds where he fights off the board. The Octosari is left contesting the Wild Pyromancer. There's no actual clear for the Wild Pyromancer from Bloodyface's hand.
Yes, there was a different line here where you can clear everything else on the board except the Octosari. Leave the Octosari, silence it, and then hope that Bloodyface's hand is extremely bad.
No Sandstorm Elementals, no Kobold Lackeys, no Rush Lackeys.
Hoping he has the Questing Explorers, for example, a Shadowwalk that he can't play. A Life Drinker wouldn't even be that strong. And then maybe Fino can come back with having the Psycho Pumps, summon Total
It does not, like, they're not seeing an extra 7 cards in their hand, you know? It's not like it was pushing Bloodyface towards fatigue. It's not like there's some weird combo where if Bloodyface overdraws a specific card that it gets shut off. Something like Holy Wrath Paladin where you could overdraw so many of those cards. So,
I mean, I would say that I personally disagree with what Fino did there, and I think that his higher chance of winning was leaving up the biggest minion there and just hoping to come back with a potential bad hand from Bloodyface. I think that the average hand that Bloodyface has when his hand is full is just way too strong for Fino to be able to capitalize.
This game is all but over. If Bloodyface really wants to be cheeky, he can go Hero Power Life Drinker, and the Life Drinker will have a charge from the Tundra Rhino. That's a pretty funny play. Right now, the 2-4 on board is a Blight Nozzle Crawler that has a Death Rattle summon a 1-1 with Russian Poisonous. So if he wants to, he can just trade the 2-4 into the 7-7, trade the 1-1, and the 7-7 will disappear. So
we also have the Weaponized Wasp.
Weaponized Wasp also works. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
So he has multiple options here to take advantage of the Fender Rhino on board.
I don't like the Weaponized Wasp because I think the Faceless Lackey is actually maybe unrealistic.
Oh,
it might be incorrect because 1 in 92, 1 in 100 times the Faceless Lackey will summon a Doomsayer, and that's literally what Bloodyface's outs, like Bloodyface's outs to lose the game are, like the 1 in 100s.
And maybe he wants to dodge that specific
Alakir.
Oh, and he does decide to go for the Faceless Lackey here. He also, interestingly enough decides to sacrifice some amount of his board.
Those are not Doomsayers.
Yeah, they are very good, I would say, Gallons. And I mean, as long as he doesn't get the Doomsayer, which is literally, as you were saying, a 1 in 100, right?
Yeah.
He is just, this play is just extremely strong. And even with the Doomsayer,
even with the Doomsayer, I think that Fino's almost out of the game, yeah.
It seems super unlikely.
Bloodyface gets another turn to develop. Fino does not. Bloodyface has board. Fino does not.
Bloodyface plays the Alak here. He has the double Life Drinker to follow up.
does not.
Yeah, and I think this is just a game that just shows the power of the Shaman deck and why we see so many of the players bringing not only the Quest Shaman, but also the older version of the Shaman, just capitalizing so much on the recent edition of Evolve,
Absolutely.
making the Desert Hare and all that just extremely strong.
We've seen the power of that multiple times this tournament.
And yeah, I think Fino here just trying to look for something that just doesn't exist.
Trying to stay alive, but there's really not much. There's really not much that Fino can do here. There's no Zephyrus. There's nothing even close to Zephyrus in Fino's deck right now.
That's is some of the weakness of the combo priest. That the second you fall behind, it's a very aggressive deck, and it's very good at capitalizing on having the board. So
Bloodyface is going to even it up.
Yeah, he evens it up, and 1-1 now, and that's different from what we had yesterday when Fino just clean swept Bloodyface with a 2-0 and going to a game 3, which I think will most likely be the Priest Mirror.
Yeah, I mean, this has actually been a pretty uncommon scenario. I feel like most matches so far, at least the ones that we've casted, have been a quick 2-0. So I'm happy to see a game 3 between these players. I think they both get the opportunity to show all of what they've got. And yeah, Priest Mirror could be pretty common. Fino still has his Warrior up, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that Fino actually has a lot of options here.
Oh, correct. Fino does actually have his Warrior up. I didn't even think about that, but so that is definitely a case here. So it's Bloodyface with the Druid and the Priest, right? And Fino with the Warrior and the Priest.
So it's going to be really interesting because it seems like there's one way to go, which is really beneficial to Fino, where if Bloodyface cues his Priest and Fino cues his Warrior, I think that could actually benefit Fino. But if Fino cues Warrior and Bloodyface cues Druid, suddenly that's going to turn on its head and Bloodyface will have a huge advantage. So
yeah, and I think the personal preference I would go for here if I was Fino was that I think that his Warrior is so heavy that I don't even think it's necessarily that strong versus a good Priest player. So therefore, I think he'll just go the Priest and most likely just take the Priest Mirror and do his best there.
Yeah, sure. But we've seen a lot of mind games in this tournament. That being said, we have to go to a quick word from our sponsors, but stay right with us. We'll be back in just a minute.
BlizzCon 2019 is brought to you by Coca-Cola, the official refreshment of BlizzCon. Facebook Gaming, a world of play. Samsung SSD, performance gamers trust. Corsair, do your thing. And by NVIDIA.
Welcome back after that very quick break. Fino and Bloodyface are going to be going into Game 3 to decide who will make it to that top 4, get an extra $25,000 and another shot at becoming the Hearthstone Global Champion. Fino just won that game after starting down at 0-1. We're going to a Game 3, like we said earlier, and this is pretty uncommon. I want to see both of them play as well as they have so far this weekend. Fino, we still haven't gotten the bans yet, or the picks yet for this Game 3, but after a little bit of debate, I'm with Casper on this, where we think both players will be queuing Priest first. Now, that is subject to change, but it seems like it's less of a risk for Fino to take here.
Well, it's less of a risk for both the players,
Yes.
I would also say.
Yes.
It's just the strongest deck overall. I think both players decide to go for either the Warrior or the Druid. They're leaving themselves very vulnerable to polarized matchups, which in general is a thing that pro players really don't like to do. They want to be able to play the game, and that's why I think we're most likely going to see the Priest.
It looks like Fino has stuck with the consistent line, taking Combo Priest here. Another pretty consistent Combo Priest deck. There really isn't that much room to change this because so much of it is like compact, where you need pretty much all of these cards to work together to actually make the deck function. If you try to take out something, you'll miss a critical card. So we see Wansomni, that's become pretty standard. Yep, Bloodyface is going to be on Combo Priest as well. Just the low-risk line here. Another very similar deck list. I believe they might be playing the exact same list. Yeah, it looks like they're playing the exact same list that you actually innovated last season.
And it seems that this is a tendency in the entire championship, that this is just the Priest that most players have preferred. It is very solid overall, I would say, and it's just proven continuously a success, right?
So
people haven't
to
seen
put it in a less humble
reason
way,
to change it.
in a less humble way, it's a tendency to believe that Hunter Ace is good at Hearthstone. You know what? I actually follow that as well. I've used that strategy pretty successfully in my Grandmaster season, and when I strayed from that, I actually ended up losing quite a bit more games. So thank you for helping me out.
You're welcome, Galen. You know, it's a pleasure to always help you out there.
Yeah. So that's my quick shout out. But I think we're going to be looking at a pretty volatile match for our next game. Priest mirrors are often decided by the mulligan phase, and that's really where you can try to get your opponent. Where if you keep a mulligan that they're not expecting, or it's just like an uncommon thing, that is how you win the Priest mirror. We see Bloodyface start with a pretty abysmal start.
Oh, but picks up the Light Warden.
But he does pick up a 1-drop, yes.
Picking up the 1-drop in this match is
so huge.
Extremely big.
And it's silence as well.
Oh, but the Cleric from Fino there. Big draw.
Both players are playing with the top of the deck right now excellently.
Yeah, very excellently, especially from Fino. They're picking up the Cleric. That is something
so
you
huge.
really like to see. And Bloodyface here with quite a bit of an awkward hand versus aggressive start from Fino. Both the injured Blade Master and the Acolyte of Pain is very, very slow and doesn't really contest well versus the early aggressive start from the opposing Priest.
On board, Bloodyface does contest both the Northshire Cleric and the 1-2. He can silence the Northshire Cleric down to a 3 health minion and deny card draw for Fino. And he can just go face with his 1-2 and heal face if he'd really like to. He also has the opportunity to trade into a minion, but that doesn't really change that much. So from Bloodyface, it's just about how do you fight the board as effectively as possible.
Expending a silence this early is
you could even Divine Spirit.
Extremely risky.
Yeah.
Going into a potential inner fire player from your opponent, you know that they can just lock out the game. But as we were saying, this is a very volatile match. And you have to take risks in the early game if you don't have all the cards you need. And Bloodyface just thinks that he has to do it at this point, and he gets a very rewarded for it.
Fino has been drawing card after card what he needs. I think a Wild Pyromancer here was one of, if not the best draws he could have. Injured Tolvir obviously would have also been pretty fantastic with the Circle of Healing, but Wild Pyromancer is just something that you can play to contest. It contests an Acolyte of Pain excellently. It contests an Injured Blade Master very well. That's pretty much the best draw Fino could have hoped for.
Yeah, he just wants to continue this pressure now. Staying ahead is extremely important. The second you're behind and leave your opponent the possibility to make a value trade or a big inner fire
This is
trade,
actually so
it's
cool because we're going to go to a game state, I believe, right now with the hands that we do not often see, where both players check each other in the early game and they fight with small minions.
Oh, but the Ahmed pickup, Galen.
Every single turn. All right.
Yes.
You had to say something for Bloodyface. What does Bloodyface draw? His own Ahmed?
What if Bloodyface draws his own Ahmed? Then the entire stand change. What if he draws the Cycle Pump? The Cycle Pump will be extremely powerful, especially after this injured Blade Master that dies here. I think Fino is probably very afraid of that specific scenario. And he draws the Cycle Pump! Both players managing here to just complete their curves entirely, and this is a big 50-50.
Oh, what a game.
Bloodyface is going in there.
No!
Oh, he doesn't hit it. Okay, and Fino here.
That's so good for Fino.
It's very important, I think, yeah.
This High Priest Ahmed is just going to contest so well. Fino could trade off the 3-1 if he wants to, or just go for an extra card by trading the 1-3 into the Light Warden. And this Ahmed is just going to be uncontested based on the current hands.
Also, inner fire pickup.
Okay, so Bloodyface is on a draw to contest this Ahmed incredibly well. Inner fire off the top. That's on inner fire. Oh, this is getting super scary for Bloodyface right now. Fino is pretty much a single card away, and that single card is any minion that he can play.
Yeah, and Bloodyface here having a bit of a hard hand, I think, to deal with, and looking for the optimal way to do it.
Yes and no. I think that Bloodyface can contest this board. From his perspective, Fino has really no minions to play. An Acolyte of Pain can come down, a Beaming Sidekick can come down, targeting either the Acolyte or the Light Warden. Just have to hope that Fino doesn't really have that explosive minion start.
Yeah, and Fino doesn't have that, so Bloodyface could potentially be able to stabilize the board here, and with some pickups from the Acolyte, could do a powerful inner fire play potentially next turn and trade the Ahmed.
He doesn't have it, but it's very likely that he picks something up. So it's going to, Fino is relying on the top of his deck right now, like he's been doing for this entire game.
They both have,
to be honest, yeah.
For sure, but there's a lot of good draws for both players at this point, I think, especially for Fino with the Ahmed on board. He has a lot of good pickups that really benefit from the current board state.
Beaming sidekick. That's so huge.
Yeah, that's definitely one of them. A very big
That
draw there
is
from
so
Feeno.
huge.
Yeah, it's really big. And also just creates an additional...
That is so huge. He can buy Beaming Sidekick the Amet, Interfire, trade the Acolyte, deny any more card draw from Bloodyface, play an injured Tol'Vir, probably skip the healing because you do not want to buff your Light Ward, but even that's debatable.
Yeah, I think that he wants to Interfire the Acolyte most likely here. It's a bit interesting because
Deny
even
Bloodyface.
because he also has the injured Tol'Vir, right? So he is protected for the potential of a Bloodyface going Divine Spirit, Interfire, and then making this big value trade on the Amit that will probably just blow the game in Bloodyface favor. And
that's
a very big point here.
Yeah.
He also knows that Bloodyface doesn't have any more silences, so Interfiring this Amit is totally safe for him.
Just decision point. I think denying the card draw is what Feeno really wants to do here. I don't think the Interfire is going to get much better than this.
Yeah, and Feeno definitely agrees. He thinks that it's just a tempo game. He actually decides to trade the Light Ward instead of the
Oh, okay. I went straight upstairs for a second.
It's quite an interesting decision to make here. What do you think about it, Galen? Because the Acolyte now has the potential of drawing more cards.
Acolyte can draw a card. I think you almost always start the turn with that. The current hand, I don't really see a way for Bloodyface to do really anything.
Yeah, he could manage to pick a Circle of Healing or an Nephroshade Ritualist to really just buff up this Light Ward quite a lot.
Cleric is a really good draw. You can go
Pyromancer,
Cleric.
you could pick up a Pyromancer.
Yeah, that as well.
Maybe do a lot of things with Acolyte here. Oh,
Extra arms, you can play 2 copies of that. That lets him do something like extra arms the 1/2, extra arms the 1/1, and just value trade.
Oh, he could go extra arms, and Topsy-Turvy the 1/7. Then there's only the Amit left on board. That leaves Feeno kind of forced to have the top deck, right?
So you extra arms,
read at this
the Light Warden, you're saying, and then you Topsy the 1/7. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I can definitely see him being able to do that. There's probably other lines also, but I haven't really
so
anything else yet.
This is actually getting so close.
I assume he wants to Topsy it, but I can also see him just...
Oh, he can just heal. The heal does the exact same thing.
Oh, yeah. And then we save the extra arms also, right?
Yeah, no.
But now the 1/7 can trade into the Light Warden,
That is interesting.
Right?
I think
is
you're
a big problem. But he could have also done this with the Topsy-Turvy, right? He could have just played the Topsy-Turvy in the end here on the 1/7.
I think you're right.
I think
you're right. The Topsy-Turvy made so much sense there. You leave yourself with an extra 5/1.
Feeno being able to have this powerful trade here on the Light Warden is just
so
devastating for Bloodyface, and I think that he was supposed to make the trade.
No, I actually agree with you. The Acolyte would have also been a bit protected as well, just because he had to choose which one to kill. Yeah.
Yeah, he had to trade either of them, and
I really like the heal. The heal over the extra arms made a ton of sense. It's just the exact same thing, but you keep a card in your hand. The Topsy-Turvy, however.
Yeah, I think he should have played a Topsy-Turvy there, and that might be a mistake that
cost him the game, honestly. Like, if you look at what just happened, Feeno got to get a value trade. He keeps a 1/6 around because of that. His Amit clears the Acolyte of Pain. He gets to develop another minion.
Yeah, it doesn't sound that big of a difference, but the actual things that happen and the different play Feeno makes, like is possible to make for Feeno is just so much stronger.
I mean, Feeno can just go or Bloodyface can go Power Word Shield, Divine Spear, try to get this out of range.
Okay.
This is getting super tense. If Bloodyface goes for a Divine Spirit here.
Yeah, it's starting to get really scary, right? Because we can't deal with the Amit, and a potential Nephros Ritualist top deck would just end the game at that point, right, Galen?
Yeah.
And this is a lot of the reason that Bloodyface decides to keep the Topsy-Turvy, because he has a double Divine Spirit in hand, so there's always the possibility of that of
just drawing on Amit off the top, getting a Nephros Ritualist.
And just killing your opponent, right?
Yes, yes, it is a reason to do it. I still agree with you, though. I think the Topsy-Turvy early was correct.
Yes, I think that gave him he gave him additional draws with the Acolyte, and it also just had a way stronger board presence, so I think that was way better. And Feeno picking up the card that Bloodyface really wants to see the next turn.
This is super close. Bloodyface is on a couple draws to win here.
Yeah, and it's super tense. This is the game. where the winner goes to the semifinal and the loser is out. So it's really important how this game just pans out now in the end. And both players are probably really stressed out at this point.
From Feno's perspective, man, you probably trade into the Ahmet, you probably play the Bonsomdi and just hope hope for your life that he does not have Neferset Divine Spirit topsy-turvy.
I also think that Feno has a pretty good read on these two left cards being potentially a Divine Spirit and an Inner Fire or a topsy-turvy. So he's probably very afraid, and he is going to make all the trades here into the Ahmet just to play around.
Bloodyface is on a couple draws here.
Yes, for sure. He also has the Cleric, so he can get additional draws for what he wants. If he picks up a circle,
can decide to deny Bloodyface one extra circle draw with just trading into the 1/2 into the 2/5. It gives Bloodyface one less minion.
Might be irrelevant. He doesn't decide to do that. The
Power
shield.
That's big. That's another card draw.
That's another card draw. And we can also get to the point where he just doesn't need a Divine Spirit even if he picks up a right amount of different stuff here. Oh.
Bonsomdi, that is not it.
That's not what he wants to see.
All right, Bloodyface.
He could still go for the Cleric.
Yes.
Could still go for the Cleric. Could pick up the Circle of Healing.
Absolutely.
Could pick up the Nephros Ritualist. It is all about just getting Ahmet to that critical 14 health right now. So he can Divine Spirit and Topsy it and finish Feno.
Right now he can get it to 11. Heelless more arms.
But with a Circle, it will go to 13. And to get it with the 1 damage, that would also
That's
be
what
lethal.
he needs. Inner Fire does not do it.
It does not do it, yeah. It's so close. So both Circle of Healing and Nephros Ritualist would have done it.
Bloodyface can still Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, value trade the Ahmet, or elect to just go face.
Yeah, now he can even go for a different game plan, right? He can make like value trades with the Ahmet potentially here, but doesn't sound necessarily
Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, hit him in the face.
Yeah, it seems very unlikely that he can go the board route here, so he probably has to go face. And Bloodyface decides to do that. Feno now, though, with a very hard turn. He has the Cleric, he has the Circle of Healing. He has to go fast here and just... I think there's definitely a lethal that is very likely to hit now.
We've seen this before with Feno versus Casey, where he had an impossibly hard Priest versus Priest hand, just like this.
There's also the Cleric for our opponent, right? So, yeah, like, do we have to trade into that Cleric first, Galen, or do we heal first, giving ourselves the max opportunities to get the lethal?
What if we just take it slow? We play a Light Warden, heal our own phase, just kill off the 18/18. You've seen both Divine Spirits. You know there's more arms in hand, but Bloodyface is on a draw then to get another Inner Fire. But you also just have a dominating board lead from that spot.
Oh, but he's training into the Cleric now. And if he's going for the Circle play, this is starting to get really scary because there's a lot of draws here. And the draws are happening, the animations are happening from both sides, right? So it's extremely hard here. Feno on the ropes, Galen.
This is so tense.
Oh no, he
Divine
picks
Spirit.
up the Inner Fire and the Divine Spirit. That's
Does that
lethal,
do it?
right? I think that's
believe
lethal.
so. 14 plus 7, that's 21. No, this is 28.
No! He misses it!
No, he has
two extra arms.
He has the extra arms.
Did he mess it up?
No! Bloodyface is gonna take it!
Oh no!
Not again! Not again.
Feno, dude. Oh.
Bloodyface is going to take it after Feno misses just a tiny but incredibly crucial one extra damage. Bloodyface 2-1 moves on to the top 4, keeps the American dreams alive in this tournament. With, I had to say, some absolutely stellar play from behind performance, but man, must that be so painful for Feno.
Yeah, that's devastating for Feno, man, especially after what happened in the
I'm actually tearing
in the
up
season two of Grandmaster there. This happening again now with the Clerics. It's rough. But that's how it is, you know. The competition is brutal. You only have 75 seconds, and he knew it going into the turn. He was a bit slow in the beginning because it was a super complicated turn. You have to decide what to do there, and he didn't even go for the Cleric trade first, and both Cleric animations being so slow and everything just happening so fast and the pressure just piling up.
I mean,
it's just rough, Galen.
We brought this up earlier where option paralysis can happen, where you're so focused on trying to find the best play possible that you end up spending your entire turn doing that and just not having enough time to figure out what actually needs to happen to win the game. And I mean, I hate to say it, but that is just a repeat of what happened with Fino versus Casey, and I hate to see it. But, I mean, that's not what we should focus on. Bloodyface makes it through to the top 4. He is the lone American left in the global finals. And, I mean...
Together now with Lee and Lion and Casey in the top 4.
We have 2 representatives from China, 1 from the Americas region, 1 from Europe. We have a pretty stacked top 4, I have to say.
So it will be interesting to see if China manages to keep on the dominance now. Currently 4-0 in the tournament. We could potentially see the China versus China final, and it will definitely be interesting if they can keep it up now in the semifinals, facing both Bloodyface and Casey.
I mean, I think both Lee and Lion have been playing fantastically this entire tournament. Really no slip-ups from either of those players, just some solid Hearthstone games. So pressure's not getting to them, obviously. And I have to say the same for Casey and Bloodyface, I believe. I think that both, well, in game 1 of Casey's match versus Surrender, the first time that they played, he had what we just call a punt. It was something that he knew was wrong and just momentarily blanked on it, which is a very stressful thing to have to happen in the global finals, right? When your entire, like, not a career is on the line, but a lot of money and pretty much fame at this point is on the line. To make a blunder like that is awful. But Casey managed to pull through. Day 2, he's shown what's up. Playing some good Hearthstone. I think that'll continue into the top 4. Same with Bloodyface. Bloodyface was in some very stressful scenarios, manages to clutch it out.
Also, important factor that is different now for the top 4 compared to what it's been going on previously is that now it's best of 5, and that kind of changes up the entire game, I think, because now there's the potential of locking out a deck, which hasn't been possible now in the best of 3 phase.
Yep. So in best of 5, I mean, just the your weakest deck is something that you really have to play, which is not what we've been seeing in best of 3. But, I mean, that will be for the next couple of games. We have to go to a quick break. Stay right with us. Saddle and Stain will bring you the first match of the semifinals of the Hearthstone Global Finals.
BlizzCon 2019 is brought to you by T-Mobile. Their newest signal goes farther than ever, and it's built 5G ready. MSI, True Gaming. Intel, the official CPU partner of BlizzCon. And by HyperX, we're all gamers.